Yeah, yeah. Looking forward to it.
I actually have some good news today, which is really nice.
That's good. Did you get back in town today?
Yeah, it's been a crazy couple of days travel wise. I flew down to Oklahoma City and then I drove basically from there all the way up here in a span of 2 days or like 32 hours. So I feel like I've been out of touch with just about everything, but happy to be back, that's for sure. All right.
Yeah, when you said you were out of town, I was like, oh, wonder if we are not doing the pod tomorrow.
Oh no, I purposefully booked the trip so that I'd be back so my wife could go to. Actually, she's at the Muni, and guess who she
Oh
ran
yeah.
into? Guess who she ran into?
Oh, Sisi.
Yeah, ask her about that tonight.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, she texted me while I was putting the kids down. That was hilarious. All right, ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. Welcome everyone to Flyover Footy. My name is Matt Baker, joined as always by Santiago Beltran, and we're getting there. Still no games to talk about, but we have part two of sorts today that's going to give a big overview for the final 11 matches and different scenarios for every type of playoff possibility that St. Louis City SC can look forward to. We're all itching to get back to MLS play as we're starting the show off with some exciting player news. But before we get into all of that, Santi, how are you? How's your week been and how's it going?
Doing great, Matt. It's Thursday, almost the end of the week. That means that we are getting closer to that return of MLS play against Austin FC on Sunday, August 20th. 10 days.
10
Nobody's
days.
nobody's counting, right?
No, 10 days from when we're recording, absolutely nobody's counting. It's not the thing on all of our minds. We're not itching to get going, but we've got some exciting news to get into. I didn't know how much news we'd actually have, but given that this was the first week that City got back into training and started getting back on the field as a cohesive unit, it was the first availability for Bradley Carnell, and boy, was it worth it. We got some really good updates, I feel, starting off with the bit of news I think we all wanted to hear about, Joao Klaus. Carnell says, and I quote, he's feeling pretty good. We're hoping that he progresses intensely. You guys haven't seen in the past couple of days, but he's been working really hard. He's putting in a lot of effort over the last couple of days. And the biggest thing is to feel confident and secure and comfortable in terms of how his body's feeling. So that's been the biggest thing for him. And it hasn't quite felt right yet. We have one more image to do before we get that final go ahead. And hopefully, if nothing comes up between what he said between me and a lightning strike right now, should be progressing next week on the field, partial with the team. So, barring any massive unforeseen circumstances, everything that they're thinking, he should be a participant in team activities next week.
Yeah, so that's encouraging, but I think it will depend on how you look at it because, yeah, if he's back with team activities next week, I don't think he will be available for the game against
Oh, yeah.
Austin FC. And that's what, like before Leagues Cup, I think Bradley was very optimistic about maybe having him available for Leagues Cup, not for Leagues Cup, for August 20th against
Right.
Austin, but I think it's gonna be at least another week after that game, maybe two. But it's good that he's progressing okay. Hopefully, this next match goes okay, and he can start soccer activities with the team next week. I'm looking forward to going to practice next week and hopefully see him playing with the guys.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a few extra media members at the training next week, not just for Klaus, but for the next guy we're going to talk about, Nukvi Torreson. He has his work visa and should be in St. Louis maybe today, maybe tomorrow, as we're recording this on Thursday night. But Bradley Carnell said he expects to see Torreson Saturday. The staff's going to evaluate him and run baseline tests to see where his fitness is, since he hasn't played in a competitive match since May 13th. Carnell said this week, quote, I asked him, what's your best attribute? He says, I'm aggressive and I'm running and I fight for the ball. I'm like, yes, we love all those attributes, Carnell said. And he's a proven goal scorer as well. So what he can do is play multiple positions. We like the all-arounder tag at this club. So he can play left wing back. He can play left 10, the central attacking midfielder. He can play central striker. There's multiple positions he can play. Again, how he fits and evolves and adapts into our system, we just have to give him time. And through all this, it's important to know Torreson will wear the number 29. This, Santi, I'm interested to hear what you think about this because the options, and we're going to talk about it in the coming weeks, sound pretty limitless as far as how he can slot into any type of squad we roll out.
Yeah, no, it's great that he's gonna be in St. Louis within that timeline we had initially estimated. Obviously, the team will have to evaluate him, and Carnell said like we're not gonna rush him. We're gonna do like the whole evaluation when you think it's the second half of the season, but it's only 11 games, so we just want to make sure that long term we do what's best for the team. So, but yeah, it's exciting when he's ready to play and fit. He will have multiple things, multiple roles he can fill for the team. But it'll be interesting to see if he goes directly with City when he's ready, or he still sees some time with City too. I asked Carnell about that, and he said I asked him about Marcanic, which we will talk about next, and Torison. I asked him like, is part of the plan maybe having them spend some time with City too? And he said for Marcanic, he was like, no, he's in soccer form. He has been playing with Colorado, played with first team sometime, has been playing with second team with Rapids too. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's necessary, but we'll see. And then with Torison, he just said we'll see how we'll evaluate him and go from there. So he didn't discount it. So we'll see if maybe we'll see Torison start with City too, so he can get back in form.
Yeah, that's the interesting approach with City 2 that I think we're looking forward to in the next couple of weeks with Torreson and with Klaus even because like you said, I wouldn't expect Klaus at all for the Austin match on August 20th. But with some City 2 matches coming up, I could see an easy possibility of a potential Klaus Torreson partnership for City 2 as they both ramp up so to speed. I completely agree and I think it makes all the sense in the world that if Marcanic can slot right in and you expect him to be a backup and he's going to be the backup to Hebert to start, then why not slot him right into the game day roster since he's in game form? He's coming off of his own half season with Rapids 2. That makes all the sense in the world. And let's stick with Marcanic right now because he did begin training with the team this week. He showed up in their video back to training at the beginning of the week, and he's wearing the number 13, a notable number. That's interesting that he picks that low number that's available to him. I wonder if he just showed up first and got the dibs over Torreson on that one. But either way, that type of a number for the player, I think that bodes well for seeing him on the field. If you want to read anything into the numbers and how they play into availability or likelihood of minutes, I think the depth that he's going to provide is going to be most interesting. It's not lost on me either, and we're not going to get into it tonight, but it's not lost on me that the MLSPA released their free agent list for the end of the season, and Johnny Nelson is on that list, coinciding with Anthony Marcanic appearing for City as a supposed backup to that left back role to start with potential future ahead of him. It's going to be interesting to see how that depth chart on the left side and how really those roster slots break down.
Yeah, it will be interesting for sure, and also not only for the end of the season, but also for upcoming game day rosters.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the team will go with two left backs on the game day roster on the
Yeah.
bench. So I think between Marcanic, Nelson, and Pedro, if he doesn't go on loan, which is actually something we should clarify when we were talking on the last spot,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about the end of the transfer window. That was more for playing in MLS, USL, but
Incoming.
incoming.
Incoming to America. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of the transfer windows in Europe are still open
That's right.
until the end of the month. So it is possible that one of these options that the team and his agent have been looking at could materialize before August 31st. So we'll see what happens with Pedro.
Mm-hmm.
Between Marcanic and Johnny Nelson, my gut tells me that at the end of the year, when the team has to make decisions, I think one of the two won't be with the team in 2024.
All right, you heard it here first. Santiago predicting one of Marcanic or Nelson will go out at the end of the year. I'll be interested to see how the last 11 games break down for those two, especially because there's a lot to fight for if that's at stake. Speaking of fighting, Joakim Nilsson is our last player news of the week. And more good news. So I think all around, there's good news as far as depth, arrivals, health. Joakim Nilsson played 45 minutes a couple weeks ago in his first return with City 2, scored a goal. Played 78 minutes in his second game with City 2, scored a goal. Bradley Carnell said, we've seen Joakim rack up some minutes with City 2, which has been awesome. Besides his contribution, just getting him those volume of minutes has been good. Had to dial him back a few notches because we expect a little bit of recourse along the way. So with him this week, just doing partial training. So Thursday we have off, then we're reconvening on Friday to see how he can be a part of the Atlanta scrimmage. And Carnell also did caution Santi that he doesn't know if he's going to be a full 90 minutes fit for Austin, but he's looking for him to contribute in some form or fashion. And I talked the other day to some people at the City 2 game that the progression is pretty apparent right now. So there's obviously caution in not wanting to ramp him up too quickly, but going from 45 to 78, when you're 2 weeks out, you have an opportunity for a scrimmage. It would not surprise me in the slightest. I'm almost, in fact, hoping for it, not even overly optimistically, to see him start against Austin. I think that is absolutely within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, yeah, that could be possible. But if he starts, he probably play 70 minutes or something like that, right?
He could. And that could be an interesting opportunity to get Marcanic some match time, right? So you have Hebert that starts on the left back, slot him over when or if Nielsen goes out. I mean, there's some options for synergy on getting these guys game minutes that haven't really appeared for City yet.
Yeah, but yeah, it's encouraging to see Joachim Nilsson back. He had a couple of good outings with City 2, scored 2 goals. It will be, it looks like he's a weapon on those set pieces. So we'll probably see some of that when he is playing for City. Hopefully, I know Carnell said that they had to give him some rest this week. Hopefully, it's just nothing major, just the normal recovery from an injury, from playing games and training with intensity. But yeah, it'll be great to see him against Austin, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the backline would look like when he's back. See if we will continue with four in the back, or if maybe we will transition to three center backs and wing backs. I'm looking forward to seeing how all of that is gonna shape up.
A lot of options with an extra center back, with an extra left back. That will be interesting. But before we move on to the second half of the season preview, or really the last final third preview of the season, let's do a little quick Leagues Cup update because that's all we have to look for right now. We don't have city matches. We're going to do a quick preview in a few minutes, but I wanted to touch on just your thoughts on some of the notable matches, predictions, any surprises or disappointments, because we were asked about this on Twitter or X. And so I'll start us off with just giving an update on where Leagues Cup is. As we're recording on Thursday night, we do have matches on Friday, but we're down to the quarterfinals. We have LAFC Monterrey going at it on Friday at 9:30. We have Nashville, who beat Club America, which that's a notable match. Nashville facing Minnesota United on Friday at 7:30. Philadelphia and Querétaro going at it at 7 on Friday, and Miami and Charlotte at 7:30. Every single one of these has an interesting storyline to it. For me, it's the powerhouse LAFC Monterrey. I think that's probably the strongest head-to-head matchup that we're going to see. The Nashville Minnesota matchup has the background of Nashville squeaking by Club America. Philadelphia and Querétaro are probably tactically the most exciting matchup to watch. And then, of course, the Messi factor in Miami Charlotte. And from what I've seen on social media, now I haven't been as active this week as I usually am, Andrew Wiebe from Extra Time seems to be going at it with the Charlotte FC fans, with comments made that I think he said they might allow 9 goals to Messi. But to be fair, Charlotte has allowed the most goals of any team in MLS this year. And you know me, I'm not going to miss an opportunity to dunk on Charlotte. So 40 goals allowed in, I think, 23 matches. That's got to be said and pointed out when you're facing Messi, who doesn't need a goal advantage to come back and win a game.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good matchup, and yeah, I don't think it will be 9 goals, but I think Messi will continue his scoring streak, and Miami will advance. But yeah, some interesting games for sure. I think the winner between Monterrey and LAFC will make the final on that side of the bracket,
Yeah.
and were we supposed to make a prediction on the winner, right?
Hey, yeah, go for it. I think we should make predictions on winners of each one of those and who we, because I don't know if we'll get to Leagues Cup much next week with an actual match to preview. So might as well do it now and see how we hold up.
Yeah, so I think Miami is gonna win the whole thing, and
Mm,
it will play the final against the winner of LAFC and Monterrey. Which I guess if I have to pick one of the two, I'm gonna go with LAFC. Then on the Nashville Minnesota game, going with Nashville. Miami beats Charlotte. And let's go with a surprise. Querétaro continues surprising, and they advance, and they will be the only Liga MX representation left.
so going from 2 Liga MX in the quarterfinals, 6 MLS, down to 3-1 in the semis. That's where you're going with it.
Yep,
And then you have a final of LAFC and Inter Miami.
yep.
Is that Berkey that I hear?
No, that's Nina.
I was hoping it was Berkey.
She
People
was
need to
no.
know that you have a dog named Berkey.
Yeah, Berkeley is really quiet. She doesn't bark much, but her sister compensates for that.
That's okay. Well, we're getting ready to get into something worth barking about, and that's the final 11, the final third of our
Yeah,
season.
so let me see what she wants because she wants from being asleep to being active. So give me a couple of minutes. Well,
Go
I'll be
for it,
back.
Santi. Go for it. I think one of the other questions that we had, so while Santi's doing that, one of the other questions were disappointments or surprises. And looking through the group stage, I think that's where the disappointments really come because you could say that it was a disappointing referee action in the Club America Nashville game, which it kind of was in how long it took for everything to get sorted out. That was the everything that was said about that was just unfortunate, and especially the actions of the Club America fans in Geodis Park was really unfortunate. But I would say Seattle was very disappointing in that they had 0 points in their West 2 against Monterey and Salt Lake. Obviously, St. Louis City was pretty disappointing in doing the same with Columbus and Club America. All the other teams that really got Chivas, I think Chivas was pretty disappointing in a group of FC Cincinnati and Sporting Kansas City. They had 0 points as well, and they were demolished by Sporting Kansas City, if I recall correctly. And that was just it was a well attended game from Chivas in Kansas City, but it was just not an overly even matchup. Colorado, nobody expected to do anything. Austin, not a massive surprise that they got shut out in points. Necaxa, I don't know too much about them to say whether that's a disappointment. Tijuana, the same. Toronto, nobody expected them to do anything. San Luis, 0 points again. So all those teams that got 0 points in group stage, Seattle and St. Louis, those are the two disappointing ones for me. And then surprises, I was surprised that Sporting Kansas City made it out of the group. I was surprised that Nashville beat Club America the other night. That was honestly a big surprise. I was surprised that Salt Lake made it out of the group. I was expecting it to be Seattle and Monterey, but Salt Lake's had a good season so far. They're top 4 in the West. That's not too much of a surprise. And then, the West won, Tigres, Portland. That wasn't too much of a surprise. But in the knockout rounds, the amount of PKs has been surprising to me. It seems like every single match is going to PKs, and that's kind of shocking to me in how close everything has been. Charlotte getting this far, honestly, pretty surprising. Cruz Azul, and then Houston Dynamo, and this isn't a knock on Charlotte necessarily, just they're not a good team in MLS play. So getting this far in knockout, pretty impressive and surprising.
I'm back. Who?
Hey,
I don't know if you already said this, but who were your disappointments on this
yep.
League Cup?
I just went back to the group stage and I looked through. I looked through every team that had 0 points, and I called out Seattle for having 0 in the Monterey Salt Lake group. called out St. Louis. I mean, honestly, that was a really disappointing group stage, regardless of what our priorities were or what our rotation was. To get 0 points was disappointing. And then Chivas having 0 points in the Central 3 group of FC Cincinnati and Sporting Kansas City. And that kind of led into my surprises. So those were those 3 teams. The surprises were Kansas City getting out of the group. And then in the knockout rounds, I was pretty surprised that I was just surprised in the number of ties or draws that went to PKs, because it seems like every single match here in the past few days has gone to PKs. And yeah, PKs are exciting, but it goes to show the overall closeness of all of these matches. I hope that when they evaluate this tournament going forward, that's one of the things they look at, because it seems like there has to be and I understand you don't want to have 30 minutes of extra time and continue more wear and tear on the players, but it's not as exciting. You're taking a little bit of the anticipation out when you're just looking at PK after PK after PK for it's got to be 50% of these teams to move on.
Yeah.
And then the other surprising thing was Charlotte. Credit where it's due, I suppose, but for a team that's, I think, 12th in the MLS East to have moved on to the quarterfinals, that's impressive. I definitely don't think they're going to beat Miami, but it's impressive and surprising that they've gotten as far as they have.
Yeah, yeah. On my disappointments, I had Chivas, and I also had City's next opponent, Austin FC. They were in a group with 2 teams from Liga MX and ended up losing both games. And I don't know if you saw on social media, but there is a reporter in Austin that he actually asked on the press conference. It was for the first game. I think it was for the game against Mazatlan. And the way he framed his question, he was saying, "No, we were happy that Austin drew Mazatlan and Juarez instead of other teams from Liga MX." And then they ended up losing against Mazatlan, and he got a lot of hate in social media from people from Mazatlan.
Yeah, if you're going to make a statement like that, you have to hope that the team that you're supporting backs it up. And that we've gotten lucky in that regard, because, we've talked a fair bit of smack here and there as far as touting our team and what we're capable of in general. And Leagues Cup aside, I think we've been fairly lucky in that regard. Anything else? So I think we've got our predictions. Your predictions. I'm going to go with you. I like the idea of, I think it makes sense to have Inter Miami winning it with everything they've done so far, their ability to come from behind, their ability to hold a lead when they have it. And the Messi factor, it's real. And it's legitimately, if you give him a free kick anywhere within 15, 20 yards from the 18-yard box, it might as well be a PK at this point. That's the way it's looking. And it's just the sheer talent that he has. And he's done it everywhere he's played. So to me, it's not any knock on MLS quality, goalkeeping, or anything like that. It's just the quality of Messi. These shots are insane. And I also like your call out of the winner of the LAFC Monterrey match is likely to move on. There are the powerhouses on that side of the bracket. And so I could look forward to either Monterrey Miami or LAFC Miami. And don't forget, as we move on to these next semifinals after tomorrow's matchups, the final 4 teams, 3 of those teams will earn CONCACAF Champions Cup berths. The top 3 teams go on. So that's what's at stake when we get these semifinalists as they shake out. So when you're watching LAFC Monterrey, when you're watching Philadelphia Union Querétaro, if LAFC and Philadelphia can win, that means MLS will be guaranteed 3 CONCACAF Champions Cup spots, and that's massive implications for the CONCACAF Champions Cup spots in MLS play. So we're talking about LAFC if they earn one in MLS play, they would have the next best available. Same thing with a potential Nashville, Minnesota, Philadelphia, or Miami. So that's going to be fun to watch and to consider after Friday's matchups going into the semifinals on August 15th.
Yeah. Hopefully MLS gets the 3 or at least 2 of those, which will open more possibilities for City to go to the CONCACAF Champions Cup next year.
Exactly. All right, Santi, this is the thing that we've been talking about on our group chat for a good week now. We're going to do some fun stuff here for this final third preview. And it's final third because 34 games in an MLS season, we only have 11 left. It's not split evenly at that Leagues Cup break. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through scenarios. Every scenario that we need to keep in mind when it comes to playoff potentialities, playoff storylines. And then after that, Santi and I are going to have some fun with the remaining 11 matches. And we're going to do a lightning round. We're going to have 60 seconds or so to go through each matchup high level and just get a feel for what we have in store. Because on future Flyover Footies, we're still going to do our regular previews. Once we get back into match play, we're still going to have Flyover Fallout on our Mondays, Flyover Footy recording Thursday, airing on Friday. But this is going to be the primer. This is going to get us started, get us all the information we really need to know for how many points do we need to do certain things for the playoffs and what teams lie ahead. So Santi, I'm going to go first, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I know our numbers are slightly different, I think. I think they're pretty close based on...
they're close.
We did independent analysis on this one. And so I'll go first, and then you tell me how yours different and kind of what you did to get these different. So there are four scenarios that we look to for this. One is to make a wild card berth, to be in the top 9 in our conference. Another is to make the playoffs without wild card, be in the top 7. Another is to secure home field advantage in the first round of the playoffs, be in the top 4. And the other is to win the conference. All right, so what I did to try to figure out what we need to do in our last 11 to reach these milestones is looking at the last 2 years of historical data. Because honestly, before 2021, you're looking at the COVID year, and you're looking at playoffs that had far fewer teams and far fewer slots available for the playoffs. So in the past 2 years, 2021 and 2022, there were top 7 teams made the playoffs, very similar to how this year is without those wild card matchups at each conference. So looking at what we need to do to make one of those wild card spots and be a top 9 team. Historically, 2021, it took about a 1.32 or 1.38 points per game by each conference. In 2022, it took 1.26 and 1.24 points per game. And City right now, in order to get to 1.3 points per game, needs to have 45 points total. And that's my threshold is 1.3. That's a fair average of historicals. And it also looks to what the teams are this year in the standings. In order to reach that, St. Louis just needs 3 more points, and we're a playoff team. 3 more points in 11 matches. That's 1 win. That's 3 ties. This is not hard to do, and it's almost a gimme. My next one, to make the playoffs, to be a top 7 team. In 2021, it was a 1.41 points per game. In 2022, it was a 1.38 or 1.41 in each conference. To do that, for St. Louis City to get 1.41 points per game, we need to have 48 points after 34 matches. 47 will get us 1.38, so that's a bubble. Historically, to make the playoffs, St. Louis would need 6 or 7 points out of a possible 33 remaining. So we could go 2-11-0, 2 wins, 11 losses, or 2 wins, 9 losses, and no draws. Or we could go 2-8-1. So 2 wins, 8 losses, 1 draw to do this, depending on 6 or 7. And it kind of gets into what the teams below you do at that point. But I think 6 or 7 points, and we're secure in the top 7. To secure home field in the first round, it gets a little higher. 2021, to be a top 4 team, you had to have 1.62 or 1.5 points per game. 2022, you had to have 1.47 or 1.56 points per game. Currently, 1.5 points per game right now is a top 4 team, and that's the Seattle Sounders. 53 points total will get to 1.56 points per game. That would be almost guaranteed to earn us home field based on the current standings and historical average, 1.56 points per game. St. Louis would need 12 points out of a possible 33 remaining. So we could go 4-7-0. We could go 3-4-4 to do this, but with only 2 ties through 23 games so far, I'm not banking on ties. I'm looking at the Carnell philosophy of you go for it. You go for broke. Yeah. 4 wins in the stretch will get us home field in the first round. And then the big one, to win the conference. What do we think we need to do to win the whole Western Conference? Well, in 2021, it took 1.79 points per game in the Western Conference. It was higher in the East. In 2022, it took 1.97 points per game in both conferences. The key to this, though, is what did the next highest team in each conference do? And it was a pretty big spread the past few years. We're talking about 1.76, 1.65. So a 0.25 points per game difference, basically. So currently in the West, with St. Louis being in first place, we have 1.78 points per game. Now, FC Cincinnati in the other conference has 2.22 points per game. They're having an absurd season. But I say that 60 points total will get us to 1.76 points per game, and that is likely to win us the conference based on the current standings and the historical averages. So to do that, to get 60 points, St. Louis needs 19 points out of a possible 33 remaining, meaning we could go 6-4-1 or we can go 7-4-0 and we'd have it done. We're talking 6 wins and a tie down the stretch or 7 wins out of 11, and I think we'll win the conference.
Wow. Yeah, six. Yeah, I think 6 wins. 6 wins will get City very close to winning the conference and getting that home field advantage for the playoffs for all games in the conference. Should it make it to the final? But yeah, as you were saying, we were pretty close. I My approach was like more loose. I didn't look at 2 years. I look at 2022. I look at the standings, kind of where the points, how many points the team that ended in ninth position, eighth position had, and same thing for making the playoffs without that playing game. So I look at the seventh position. Same thing with home field advantage, and finally um, winning the conference in the standings. So I look at 2022, and I also looked at the team's performances so far this year, like what the team, for example, for making it to ninth position, I look at the team that is currently in 10 positions, how many points they have so far, and how many points they have left. And based on their trend, based on the current points they have, kind of calculate how many points they can get. And based on that, I got to what City needs. So we're slightly different. As I said, mine is more loose, more kind of a back of a napkin calculation. But I have uh, to to finish ninth, 3 points. So basically, you win against Austin on August 20, and in theory, mathematically, you're in the playoffs, and you can kind of start thinking about bigger goals. Then for making the playoffs outright without that playing game, I have 8 points. So you had seven, so pretty
Yep.
close. For ending fourth, which will give the team home field advantage in that first round of the playoffs, I have 11, so also pretty close to
Yep.
what you had. The one where we have a little bit of a difference is the conference. I have 21 points, you have 19, but
2 points of difference on that.
so 2 points, but I agree. 6 wins will get the team very close. Hopefully, a tie
Yeah.
here and there, and that will do it for winning the conference.
Yeah, so the biggest difference you and I have, because we're aligned on the wild card top 9, we're aligned on the top 7. To win the conference, I'm a little more optimistic that it will only take 19 compared to your 21. I found out where we're different on the home field in the first round. So my calculation has us getting to 1.56 points per game. Yours has us getting to 1.53, which I think that might do it. So I might defer to you on that as far as 11 points. Historically, and currently right now, with Seattle Sounders having 1.5, a 1.53 is likely to do that too. So mine is a little more firm. Like if we get 12 points, we're in the top 4.
Yeah,
If we get 11 based on how the trends are right now with Seattle having 1.5, I think you're right. I think we'll be in. And then, boy, some of these scenarios, Santi, of getting 1 win, getting 2 wins and a draw, getting what, 3 wins, 4 wins, getting 6 wins or 7 wins. Like these seem pretty doable given the way that St. Louis has strung together wins in the past. And I think it does come out to starting strong against Austin. So the question is, Santi, what are the teams that we're going to be playing? What position are they in the table? What's their form? What are we going to have to look forward to? And we talked about this, about doing this a fun little way right now. We're going to do a lightning round for lightning round preview of all 11 remaining matches. Now, like I said, each week we're still going to go deep into each one of these teams, but this kind of gives you a primer into what's ahead of us. And then we're going to recap it all with a possible path to each one of these scenarios, to the top 9, 7, 4, and the conference win. So, Santi, I'm going to try to keep us on track. I have my timer here. I'm going to keep both of us on point here. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. Starts off August 20th against Austin in the home matchup. I have Austin is 5th in the West with 32 points. Now, setting the stage, St. Louis has 41 points right now through 23 games. Austin is 5th in the West with 32 points on a 9-9-5 record with a 0 goal differential. The last time these two met, nobody could forget it. Entirely memorable matchup. Opening game, City winning 3-2. They were bounced from Leagues Cup, Austin was, right after the group stage, just like St. Louis City. So they've had the exact same amount of time to rest. Austin, from what we understand, decided to go straight back into practice as opposed to St. Louis, who took some time. Austin have made 2 significant signings during the transfer window. They've signed veteran defender Matt Hedges from Toronto FC, and the somewhat blockbuster trade, they shipped Diego Fagundes to the LA Galaxy for Memo Rodriguez. Both of these players returning to Texas. Hedges played for Dallas, Memo from Houston. And the leading goal scorer for Austin right now is Sebastian Driussi with 6. Gyasi Zardes also has 6. And Pereira and Cascante have assist leaders at 5 and 4.
That was 1 minute.
Not joking here. Let's go.
All right. Next, we have an away game against Orlando City. Orlando is currently 5th in the Eastern Conference, 37 points, plus 6 goal differential. The record at home is 5-1, 3 lost, and 4 draws. In the Leagues Cup, they lost in the round of 32 against Miami. They went 1 win and 1 tie in group stage with a win against Santos Laguna. Their league form before the break, they had 3 wins and 1 tie with a win against Atlanta in their last game. Their last loss at home was against DC United on April 22nd. After that, they have gone 4 wins and 3 draws. And this is the only non-conference matchup left for St. Louis City. As far as signings, they signed midfielder Junior Urso. He actually was with them between 2020 and 2022. So he's back from playing in Brazil, and my minute is up.
After Orlando, we have a midweek matchup, Dallas at home. And this is a revenge matchup a little bit. So currently Dallas sits 8th in the West with a 8-9-6 record, a -1 goal differential. So they've had a bit of a downward trend since we last saw them. Last time we played them, of course, they won 2-0, but it was that split game due to the weather. There's not a lot you can take away from that just because of how it ended up playing out. But since then, Dallas have acquired Asier Iramendi, a midfielder with nearly 350 matches between Real Sociedad and Real Madrid in La Liga. They've acquired Ghanaian forward Eugene Ansa and Canadian international midfielder Luis Frazier. Now, they've also shipped out some players. They've shipped out their homegrown midfielder Edwin Sarillo over to the LA Galaxy that I'll touch on in a minute. But Dallas, having changed up a few of their key players, their leading goal scorer so far this year, no stranger, Jesus Ferreira, with 10 goals scored. And the way that he's able to get through a midfield is going to be the thing to watch for in this match.
All right. Next, we have Sporting KC for the second. It's an away game. Second installment of the Clásico de la Capital. Sporting KC is 11 in the West with 26 points, -5 goal differential. The record at home, 5 wins, 5 losses, and 2 draws. And last time around, the first time these teams met, City won 4-0 with a brace from Indiana Basilev and Edward Lubin, and Kansas City native Nico Joachini scoring. Lost in the round of 32 against Toluca, 4-1 in Leagues Cup. when one win and one loss in group play, beating Chivas. I mean, one win and one tie. They beat Chivas. Before the break, they won one, lost two, and tied one with with a loss against Austin FC before the break, and they started the league with 1 point in 5 matches, and since then 25 points. Which basically, if you look at City, City got 26 points after that 5-0 start. So pretty close. I think Sporting KC has one more game or two more games, but still pretty close. And sorry, my minute is up, so I'm gonna skip the transactions they made.
Hey, we pulled an audible at the beginning of this just to pull the curtain back a little bit. Went from 90 to 60 seconds to try to fit all of these into about 10 minutes. So you're forgiven entirely, Santi.
Thank
After
you.
Sporting Kansas City, we continue on the road. This is going to be our road stretch for the game. So Sporting Kansas City, LA Galaxy, Houston Dynamo, 3-game road stretch. That's going to be a tough one. LA Galaxy, they're still meddling in the basement of the West, currently sitting 13th with a 5-10-7 record and a minus 12 goal differential. But I think they've been the most active of any team in this transfer window, which is kind of ironic given that they've had an international transfer ban from a previous MLS penalty that they've had to sustain. This is going to be a different Galaxy team than the one that tied City 1-1 at City Park earlier this year. They've acquired defender Tony Alfaro from NYCFC, the aforementioned Diego Fagundes from Austin, defender and former Japanese international Maya Yoshida from FC Schalke, but he was a free agent, so they were allowed to bring him in. Forward Michael Barrios from the Colorado Rapids. That's a big name that we talked about earlier this year. Along with, like I mentioned, FC Dallas homegrown midfielder Edwin Sarillo. And after all that, this week the Galaxy found out that with those additions, they're going to have to subtract out Gaston Brugman, who's going to be lost for the year after undergoing surgery to repair a torn meniscus in his left knee. The Galaxy's leading goal scorer, and I have it here, is Tyler Boyd with 4 goals. That's surprising. I didn't even look at that ahead of time. But Ricky Puig, 7 assists, is also their leading playmaker.
All right. After that game, we go to Houston. Houston Dynamo is currently 9 in the West with 29 points, minus 5 goal differential, record of 7-2-2 at home. It started with home record of 5 wins, 0 losses, 1 tie. But after that, they went right with 2-2-1 with losses against Seattle Sounders and Minnesota. They also drew against Sporting KC. The first time Louis City and Houston played, City won 3-0 with goals from Edward Leuven, Tomas Ostrak, and Nico Joachini. They lost in the round of 16 against Charlo in Leagues Cup and had ties against Orlando, Santos, and Pachuca. So they had quite a few penalty kicks in those games. Before Leagues Cup, their record in July was 0-2-2. And their last game before the break, they tied 0-0 with Colorado. They're currently in a 5-game winless streak. They made quite a few transactions. They brought a Polish midfielder, Sebastian Kowalczyk from Poland, and he has experience in their national team. That was their only arrival. They also signed Nelson Quiñones, who was on loan from Once Caldas from Colombia. And their DP, Sebastián Ferreira, went on loan to Vasco da Gama.
All right. After we have our 3-game road stretch, we return home on a Wednesday to play LAFC. Another midweek LAFC match. The last time LAFC beat us 3-0 at BMO Stadium. LAFC is currently second in the West with a 10-6-7 record and a +9 goal differential. Listen, if their fixture congestion earlier this season and then they've still remained second in the West is any indication of their consistency in depth and talent, LAFC, like we said, are still in Leagues Cup. They're still going far in this tournament, playing Monterrey this weekend in the quarterfinals. In this transfer window, LAFC saw the return of defender Mamadou Fall from his loan to Villarreal. They acquired forward Mario Gonzalez from Braga, a Bulgarian international midfielder Flip Kraslev on a loan from Lomal SK in the Belgian second division, and they brought back defender Eddie Segura. Their only loss this window was in selling Jose Cifuentes to Rangers. LAFC's leading goal scorer is Denny Bawanga with 12. Carlos Vela has 8 goals, and Vela leads them with 6 assists.
All right. Next, we have a visit to Minnesota United FC. They are currently 10th in the West with 28 points, minus 4 goal differential. They don't have a good record at home, 2-2-6. They are still alive in Leagues Cup play with a PK win against Toluca. Their form before the break, 2-1-1 with a draw at home, 1-1 against LAFC before the break. In terms of transfers, actually, I didn't put this, but these teams already played. Sadly, it was a 1-0 win for Minnesota United back in April. That was the end of that 5 game winning streak for City. In terms of transfers, so one transfer that didn't happen during this transfer window, but that will be important. South Korean center forward Sam Bin Jong, he was signed like before Minnesota played City back in April. He wasn't available for that game, but since then he has been playing with Minnesota, and City will probably see him. They also they were very active in the market in this transfer window. They brought a forward Timo Pukki, Finland's all-time leading scorer. He was the last 5 years with Norwich City, scored 88 goals and recorded 29 assists in 210 matches. They also brought another attacker, um, veteran MLS winger Ismail Tahuri Shradi, 28 goals and 9 assists in 90 MLS matches with New York City FC, New England, and LAFC. And finally, they brought back Jan Gregus in a trade with Nashville. He had previously played for Minnesota from 2019 to 2021 and has scored 2 goals and had 24 assists in 105 MLS matches during his career.
That team is not going to be fun to play. I can tell you right there.
Mm-hmm.
Next matchup is at home. Circle this one in permanent marker on your calendars. September 30th. It's the hopefully not rubber match, but it's the third match these teams will play each other. St. Louis Sporting Kansas City, 7:30 p.m. September 30th at City Park. Santi went into what Sporting Kansas City's been up to, but I do want to add Felipe Gutierrez, the one big name they brought in on the transfer window. Former SKC designated player from 2018 to 2020. He was brought back. He had played in 2022 with the Colorado Rapids, most recently played in Al Wasl in the United Arab Emirates. And he's going to add another experience option in the midfield group along with Gadi Kinda, Eric Tommy, Remy Walter, Nemanja Rodoha, and Roger Espinoza. So an extra firepower added from Sporting Kansas City for that September 30th matchup.
We're getting closer to the end of the season. So the next one we have is against Vancouver at Vancouver. It's a Wednesday night game. Vancouver is currently 7th in the West with 31 points, plus 6 goal differential. The record at home is 7-2-4. In Leagues Cup, they went 1-0-2 with ties against Leon and Tigres, but they lost in the round of 32 against Tigres in the PKs. Before the break, they had record of 2-2-0, but won their last 2 games against Austin 2-1 and LA Galaxy 4-2, both at home. The first time these teams saw each other was back in May at City Park with a 3-1 win for St. Louis City, but City didn't put the game away until the 94th minute with that goal that basically made City Park really loud. Goal scored by Miguel Perez. And one thing notable about that match was the coaches Bani Sartini complaining about the refereeing in the game. In terms of transfers, they sent Julian Gressel to Columbus in a trade. They also sent Daber Caicedo to Junior de Barranquilla in Colombia. But they got some reinforcements in defense. They got Canadian right back Richie Larea on loan from Nottingham Forest. He was previously playing with Toronto, also on loan. And left back Sam Aregubi from from a team in Turkey, and also a Canadian national team player. The thing with these two acquisitions, right back and left back, is that it may allow what Bani Sartini likes to do, or what he prefers, with three defenders and two wingbacks. So this will be another interesting game that will not be easy for City.
And then it all comes to decision day. The final match of the year will come after an international break. So we're going to have between October 4th in that Vancouver match and October 21st to look forward to this last one, a home matchup against the Seattle Sounders, where a lot could be on the line. Every scenario that we talked about earlier could have implications, including Champions Cup spots. The last time these two teams met, Seattle beat St. Louis City 3-0 at Lumen Field. And it was a memorable match for City for a lot of ways. It was the first time that City ran out three center backs. Jabulu Blom suffered an injury. It was the second loss in a row at the time. Not a lot of positives came from that other than lessons learned. This time, City's going to be looking for revenge against the Sounders side that currently sit fourth place in the West with a 10-8-6 record and a +6 goal differential. But since their last matchup, Seattle has added nobody. They stayed pat and will ride out mostly an aging core to the end of the season. There's lots of discussions on whether this is because they have contracts they can't get out of. There's a lack of movable assets. They were not looked highly upon as far as adding any weapons in this transfer window. And so it'll be interesting to see how they develop in the last part of the season, especially considering their recent form. They haven't won since July 8th against Vancouver. They bounced out of the League's Cup. They were one of the disappointments we mentioned earlier after not winning a match in group stage. Their leading goal scorer is Jordan Morris with 9 goals. Their leading assist man is Leo Chu with 8. This team coming into City Park with the loud atmosphere that we know it can be, there's a big opportunity for City in this one that we're going to touch on in a minute. But this is a heck of a way to end the season.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. It will be one of those that they will be playing for securing home field advantage or for winning the conference. But there will be something on the line for both teams, and what a way to close the regular season against one of the best teams in the conference.
Santi, we promised earlier we'd give some paths to our playoff positions. So I have that we have 5 home matches left. And immediately you have to look to every one of those matches as the biggest opportunities for City to take points because of their existing home record, 8-3-1 at home, 5-5-1 away. City is obviously stronger at home, not unlike most MLS teams. We know how hard it is to win away. So those 5 matches left at home to recap are Austin, who sits in 5th place, Dallas, who sits in 8th place, LAFC in 2nd, Sporting Kansas City in 11th, Seattle Sounders in 4th. All but one currently sit in playoff positions. And St. Louis has a rocky history against some of those teams. Santi, I have a list of what I believe are expected winnable matchups that I would say I would be frustrated if we lost. I wouldn't say they're an indictment, but I would be frustrated if we lost these games. And then I have a handful of games that I think are hopeful winnable matchups based on everything we've talked about, based on form, based on ads in the transfer window, and home, away, just games that we have opportunities with. So let me go with my path to each one of these scenarios, and then I'll let you say kind of how you tell me if you disagree or what I did wrong. Because to start off, we just need a win, and we expect to be in wildcard position. You said it. I think that win comes against Austin. This is my expected winnable game against Austin. That win will ideally, statistically, should shore up at least a wildcard spot. So to get in the full playoffs, I think I had 7 points for a top 7 spot. I have our expected winnable games of Austin, FC Dallas, and Sporting Kansas City. Those are the 3 games where I say if we lose those games, I will be rather upset. Dallas's form, they're shipping out of their homegrown. They are dropping this season. I think they are going in the wrong direction from City. And so that, to me, being a midweek matchup as well and at home, is an opportunity for City. And then Sporting Kansas City, I think we could win either one. Both games are winnable to me, but especially the game at home. So that would be 6 points right there. And then a tie somewhere else would get us that full playoff spot. 12 points for home field in round 1, or 11 points is what you had. So we'll go with 11, I think. So I have Austin, Dallas, Sporting Kansas City. We'll take 3. The other Sporting Kansas City game, I think, can be expected to be a tie, I would hope. But my hopeful winnable games in these last 11, LA Galaxy away, Houston Dynamo away, Minnesota away potentially, but Vancouver or Sporting Kansas City away. So I could say either two of Minnesota, Vancouver, or a second Sporting KC along with LA Galaxy and Houston. If we do all of those, we should shore up the conference win. That's my
Yep.
path.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, if we go expected winnable games, I have the same three: Austin, Dallas, and Sporting KC at home. Those are three games that the team should win. And basically, so if you win against Austin, based on what we talked about, basically that clinches the playoffs and the team
Yep.
can move to looking for finishing in higher positions. Top seven, you had seven, I had eight. Basically, those two wins against Austin and Dallas, the first during the first three games of this stretch, will basically get the team very close. And then I think top four is there because if you win Austin, Dallas, Sporting KC, you're already
Mhm.
at 9 points, and then as far as hopeful wins, I have Houston and Galaxy away, possibly Sporting KC away. But basically, for me, winning those three games at home, Austin, Dallas, Sporting KC, and getting some points away where it is wins or ties, I think the team basically will finish top four. There is more work to do to get that conference win. I think if the team beats either LAFC or Seattle at home, that those are kind of
Yep.
6 point games because it's
Yes.
teams that are at the top of the conference, and if you win one of those, I think maybe it will be closer to that 19 you had instead of the 21 I had. But everything is possible for this team, and hopefully the Stars with a win right off the bat against Austin. That I think that will set up the mood and the expectations for the rest of the season. It's kind of like I see it like kind of a second home opener after
Yes.
a long break, and Austin has had its up and downs during the season, but uh, to me, it's another like one of those 6 point games because they are like fifth on the table. If you win, you start distancing yourself from those positions. So hopefully, the team will come out guns blazing and win that game and set the table for the rest of the season.
There are a lot of playoff teams that we're going to be facing. Six of the eight other teams that are in playoff position right now, besides City, we're going to be facing head to head. There are a lot of these 6 point matches that are in our future, and I completely agree. It all starts with Austin. It's kind of poetic because I like that you called it a second home opener of sorts or a second opener since we opened the season off against them in the fashion that we did. This is just as big of an opportunity to make a statement that after the Leagues Cup, whatever it was in those group stage matches, it was a blip. It was nothing. It's in the past. Nobody's even considering it because we come out strong against Austin, who is not good away. Their record's 3-6-2. We're going to go deep into them next week and what they're going to bring as we round the corner to August 20th. But I do want to add Seattle to my list of hopeful winnable matches because I think everything I described of their aging group didn't add anybody, poor form recently. They've been dropping a little bit. The key is going to be to not let the moment overwhelm you in that deadline day matchup. So that's going to be really fun. We have City Park at our backs on that. There's a lot to be excited about in these last 11 games. And so as we move forward, it's going to be fun to hit those milestones and say, okay, now we've reached the point where we expect that the playoffs are locked in. Now we expect that top seven is locked in. And hopefully it's not too long before we can say we expect top four is locked in. Those are going to be some really fun moments to celebrate in these last 11 games.
Yeah, looking forward to this final 11 games. And hey, who will have thought that after the break, we will have St. Louis City SC at the top of the table? I don't think anybody will have expected that.
If there's ever a time to just take a moment, step back, and realize just how good we have it right now, might as well do it in these next 10 days before we get to the nitty gritty and before we start back into the thick of things. Like, don't forget where we came from at the start of the season, how short of a time we've had with this club, and yet how passionate everybody has gotten. The love affair is real. The team has reciprocated in every way, shape, and form. This is not normal for MLS teams to go through. I saw a comment the other day about Charlotte, and there was a comment on a Twitter post that somebody said, "Oh, it's okay. You're just in your second year." Cincinnati took a while to figure it out too. We didn't take a while. We have to appreciate this while we can as we get excited for going forward. This is a fun time to be a St. Louis City fan. It's a fun time to be a soccer fan, and I can't wait for these last 11 games.
Yeah, it's been it has gone so quickly, and I'm sure these 11 games will be the same. It will go quickly. Will be October 21st for decision day, when we are like, it will go really quick, and hopefully, as we are thinking, it will be a meaningful game, and just looking forward to what the rest of the season can bring.
All right, Santi, we did it. Our final third preview. Let's get out of here. Thanks for joining us. If you loved what you listened to, we love bringing it to you. Like, subscribe to all of our stuff: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of our socials at Flyover Footy. My name is Matt Baker. Santiago, thanks for joining me. Go City, and can't wait to be back next week for a full Austin preview.